Good morning to the TikTok universe. It is Thursday, September 19th. I can never see my calendar from where I'm sitting here. But yes, September 19th, Thursday. And we're back around for another single card pull day. If you want to get a card request in, all you need is permission, so just mention something down in the comments saying, yeah, go ahead, I give permission, or a card please. Any one of those things tends to work well, and I will absolutely draw you a card from the deck today. We do appreciate donations and support wherever possible, because at the end of the day, everybody likes to eat, and eating is a good thing. So if you've got a few bucks to send my way, I'm not going to complain. And if you want to book a full-on private session, that is always an option as well, too. You just got to reach out to me either directly or through email at lopicmagichouse@gmail.com, and we'll get something booked up for you and something arranged. Lickety split. So until we get a request or two in, let's start telling the story. We're looking right now here at the Seven of Pentacles. Remember, Pentacle centers in on anything to do with the earth. Pentacle centers in on anything to do with the body, anything to do with money, anything to do with systems that have to work with each other in good role. This particular one, the individual seems to have a large pile of pentacles in front of them, but they're leaning on their stick, not in action, not in motion, not really doing anything much at all just yet. They're just kind of overseeing the whole situation at hand. Why? Because this was in one spot, now it's in another, and it really hasn't made any kind of difference. The pile just keeps getting bigger, and the work isn't getting done fast enough to keep up with the work that's needed. The individual has to really dig in and focus hard on doing things with some amount of effort, some amount of progress, but they might not necessarily have the immediate response to what is the way to make this work. And so they need an input, they need a push, they need a direction, they need something to just sort of shove them down the road a little bit, remind them that this might work better, because what you're doing right now is just moving an object back and forth. You're not really improving the object, you're not really making the pile of laundry smaller, you're not doing anything until you take it to the machine and actually start to wash it. This individual needs to find their way to the machine, needs to find their way to the tool that's going to help them to move things along properly. They need to make their way to the next step. But sometimes seeing that next step can be a little bit difficult, especially if we've been too close to the problem for too long. And so taking that step back to actually observe the bigger picture, taking that opportunity to look around and see what else could potentially be going on, it's really, really critical for all individuals at some point or another. Take a minute to really catch your breath and expand your perspective to see what else is really at hand here. Because it's not just about the pile of clothes that you're moving back and forth in your bedroom. It's about something much larger, something much more critical to your well-being and your general state of being. And leaning in on this can be a little bit dangerous for some readers, but at the core of it, if this card's coming up, there's something in there that's got you locked on a loop, locked on repeat. Break the repeated behavior, get into something better, get into something healthier. It is open to requests right now, so if you want a card, all you got to do is ask. Next card, following up the Seven of Pentacles that we're going to just randomly discuss until somebody gives me a card request. And it is a free show, technically. I always appreciate support, but all card readings on Thursdays are free. If you can find a way past just doing the same thing back and forth over and over again, you might be able to find something that represents your true personal self. Strength card quite often gets phrased as being about strength of character, strength of identity, strength of the truth that's within you, being the most potential that you have, not allowing fears, doubts, or hesitations to prevent you from growing into something better or something else, not allowing your own thoughts to eat away at the confidence that you have in what you're doing, allowing yourself to be true to the moment, true to who you are. Most of us sometimes struggle with this whole idea of genuineness, though. It's hard to kind of get an idea of what is core identity when the world's trying to sell you identities every other day. Hi, Gary. Absolutely, I can get you a card. Thanks so much for the request. Gary, let's see what we got for Gary. Gary, your card is coming up with the Nine of Cups. Nine of Cups was a representation of satisfaction, fulfillment, contentment, getting to the point that you're okay with everything going on around you because you know that you've earned it, gathered it, harnessed it, and made it yours. This card, typically when it comes up, is meant to be a period of assessment and evaluation, to really kind of take stock of what is at hand next to you and what's missing. The best outcome is that you take that moment, a deep breath, and look around your house and you realize, well, no, everything's perfect. I couldn't ask for anything else at all. But that's rare in this day and world. At the truth of the matter, we all know what things that we are longing for, wishing for, or needing. To reach to those final points of satisfaction, though, to feel like we've accumulated a complete treasure of life, is a means of going out and finding all the special things that matter to us. In my case, I enjoy just connecting with people and learning things, so it's usually found in like a new school, a new study, something that's going to bring a new insight to my life. I've got a buddy, though. Fantastic man. He has a collection of Star Wars figurines dating all the way back to the first release just after episode 4. And so for him, it becomes an element of being able to see his collection presented and displayed and shown. The truth and the brilliance of what it really is. This shifts from person to person. And so it's not merely the accumulation of something, but rather recognizing what's going to bring you to that great personal comfort, what's going to satisfy you and make you feel emotionally fulfilled. It's an honest conversation. And especially going in towards the winter months, it's an important, honest conversation to have. We need to make sure that we have the things and the energies that are going to help us see through the cold months appropriately. Or if you're on the other side of the planet, get into the summer months with the right amount of energy and the right enthusiasm. There's a transition happening in the air, and you want to make sure that you feel satisfied as you're going in through that transition. Otherwise, little bits of doubts, worries, or concerns are going to just sort of strip away the confidence that you should be walking with right now. So if it's not part of your collection, but you know it should be, now's the time to approach and try to acquire it. Appropriately, though, in all things. You never want to force yourself into a moment and demand something be given, but allowing yourself to at least say, this is what's missing. This is what's going to make it perfect. This is what's going to make the next season bearable. That's where you're going to start getting the right vibration, the right motion, and the right enthusiasm through yourself to get the next phase happening. It's coming your way. You just have to make sure that you are very clear and concise with what your goals are. If it's becoming too much about, well, I just want to feel a certain way or be in a certain place, it's not going to be specific enough for you to actually direct yourself fully to it. But if you can make it very, very clear that the final piece, the cherry to the collection, the final step that satisfies this period, this process, it's right on the cusp of that final conclusion. And the great thing about those finalities is they trigger new beginnings on the other side. See yourself through this final moment. Don't go back to where you were, but finish the course completely and step forward to the next. Good luck, Gary, on that one. While I was reading Gary, it looks like Prashamsa. I'll get you in on the card readings, and Sanazvlay, I'll get you in there as well. You're welcome, Gary. Thanks for joining the show. Prashamsa. I'm horrible with names. I don't have a talented tongue when it comes to languages, so my apologies if I'm mispronouncing names. Prashamsa. This one's the Seven of Swords. Seven of Swords is an interesting character. If you are feeling like you are concerned about an individual taking advantage of your energies or taking advantage of your form, and this card shows up, then that is something to be worried about. Because this card represents an individual with a mindset that's tactical, that's self-serving, that's a little bit like the thief in the night, recognizing your weaknesses, your vulnerabilities, your susceptibilities, and is going to do what they can to work them against you. This is the kind of person that you don't leave your purse around because something will go missing out of the purse. Or you don't lend your car to them because when the car comes back, the pack of smokes in the glove box has disappeared. Everything always seems to work out in their favor. but it seems that they never take any risk to gain that favor. It seems that cleverness has become their best tool. And I get really cautious around cleverness. Cleverness is not long-lasting. Cleverness is not insightful. It's not thoughtful. It's not long-living, period. Cleverness is a quick quip to react to a moment, to make the moment lighter, more palpable, more manageable, a quick reaction to get time to think and plan better. But cleverness cannot be, in and of itself, the entire plan. When a person gets to the point that they're living by cleverness, they're living a little bit like a roaming dog. They're living in danger. They're living targeting others as a means of assets, of gain, of discovery, of growth. Be careful with this energy. When the thief in the night shows up, we always like to think that we can make them our snake instead, but the truth is that they will always be a snake of their own stripes. And you have to do what you can to make sure that you're protecting yourself from these types of individual energies. Don't allow them to override your best judgment. Don't allow them to take from your storehouses and take from your assets and feed themselves with them. Prashamsha, it's important to recognize your value is yours to control and direct. And if others are going to try and override that and make it theirs, you have to separate, make distance between yourself and those people. Don't run with dogs and expect that you will collect no fleas. It's impossible to work with the wild ones and not get bit. And that's the nature of some people. Some people just are naturally like that. And I don't hold it against them. Everyone's got to find their own way to happiness, but not at the expense of other people, if possible. Sanazli. Let's get you a card now. Sanaz. I've got your card coming up with the Two of Cups. I differ and I argue with some other readers because a lot of readers like to focus on this being an exchange of new emotions, love feelings, those things that make people feel like there's great things happening. Sarah Priya, I've got you up next on the list, just so you're aware. Back to you, Sanaz. On your vibe, I want to extremely push the reminder that this card is supposed to be about exchanging understanding and possibilities. It's not saying that you have to fall in love. Falling in love is tricky. What is really love in the first place? Is it the responsibility, or is it the excitement? And as we go out into the world discovering new moments of ourselves, engaging and working with others, as we see and experience desire, lust, those heavier, more intense emotional feelings, we start to realize lust is a powerful feeling. Love is too, but love is more of a creeping possession. It starts small and grows over top of us until we are now encompassed with that love. Lust draws us, pulls us, puts a chain around our neck and drags us towards a goal and towards a target. Whenever we're seeing dualities in emotions, we want to make sure that we're always considering, is the exchange a healthy one, or is this exchange more about the excitement of the moment and the draw of the moment? It's then that we can get down to the truth of the matter. Through this exchange with another person, you're learning more about yourself and growing more into yourself and becoming more aware of yourself. And so that self-awareness is the true takeaway from this possibility. You'll notice in the background, this person's hand is reaching out to this. This person's holding it forward, but I wouldn't necessarily say they're offering it. They're still deciding, what is really the meaning of this connection? When you take the time to really get to know the person, feel the person's vibe, and understand what they have for you, that's when you can approach connections in a healthy manner. Because all connections will spoil if you try to rush them. You have to build the bridge before you can go across the river. You have to lay the pipe before you can flow the oil. You have to make sure that you have foundation with a person before you open up to the deeper realms, and vice versa. If a person tries to pull something out of you that you don't necessarily trust, it's not going to be a healthy pullout. It's not going to be a healthy draw from you. And so don't, wherever possible, don't let anybody else dictate and decide the speed and the pace of the relationship. You choose what you consent to. You choose what's going to be for you in the end. Connections are bountiful right now, but making sure that you're getting healthy connections and healthy growth and healthy learning is important. Could you find something long-lasting or important from one of these connections? Quite likely. But if you rush it, you will spoil it. Take the time to develop it properly. Take the time to develop it appropriately. Sarah Priya, let's get you a question here. Is Rajanber? I can never say I'm quite right. I got to learn to be a little bit better with the languages side of it, honestly. Language is always very curious to me, but I unfortunately do not roll my tongue whatsoever for R's, and it denies me so much language as a result of that. Thank you very much for the gift. Appreciate you coming out and seeing us here today. Have an amazing day, Sinez, and a beautiful weekend ahead. So, Sarav Priya. I'm always careful when it comes to certain questions, because at the core of it, when you're talking to a reader and a reader says, you ask a reader, is this the right person for me? Reader's got a choice. Do I read the energy between you and this person? Do I read this person alone? Do I read that person alone? Where do I look my sight so I know what I'm dealing with specifically? And what I will say specifically on this one is, I always like to look at the big picture. The big picture tells me it's not about Rajan. It's not about Raj. It's about you, Sarah. Are you satisfied? I don't think so. There's a curiosity, an engagement, a desire to go out and flow and move amongst other people. And that's not to say that you want to go and flow in an emotional way. The pentacles represented here aren't about emotions, they're about business. They're about making business connections and schmoozing people so that you have access to the resources and access to the assets and tools that you need to see your career, political or professional, grow. So when we ask about a single individual, and this card comes up, well, what does the single individual offer your growth in business, well-being, in connections and influence, and being able to associate with certain clubs and be at certain galleries and museums? How does this person prove that image? If they do not, then the truth of the matter is your priority, which is the face that you are creating to present to the world for business and commerce and whatever else, isn't going to work with Raj. And if that's the case, then either you're keeping the person hidden, which just becomes a different complication, or you're going to have to let them go and recognize that the transaction just isn't appropriate to the long-term plan. It doesn't give me confidence in the idea of this being the one all and only all, but I don't necessarily have that faith in that construct either. Unfortunately, I've seen the concept of the twin flame used and manipulated to the point that it's now enslaving people to the idea that they have to find their perfect other person. And to the new souls, I understand having that direction feels important. Having a focus of one target, one goal, I know it feels really, really important. But the reality of life is that it is of your design and your choosing. And so the only thing that would limit you to only one person is you. Nothing divinely written except for anything that you would have put in pen to paper. If you're really that kind of person, then all the power to you. Find your bonded mate. Go do your commitment. Enjoy yourself. But if you are different and wired in another way, you have to respect the way that you are designed, because you helped design yourself for purpose, for intention. If the individual does not complement your personal development and growth, then they cannot be the perfect person for you, period. And many people will complement and assist your personal growth. That doesn't mean any of them are the one with quotation marks. It means they're all ones in your journey and ones in your course to help you grow and to help you design and to help you evolve into something new and different, something entirely other. So to the original question, is he the one? I am not the kind of reader that would trap you to a single person for the rest of your life. So probably not. And you need to think about your big picture goals and dreams and decide, how does he fit that before going forward with anything else? Thanks so much for letting me read for you, Sarah. Hello, Barbie. If you're still around, it's good to meet you. Thanks for coming out. I see a Charlie has entered the chat as well. Hello, Charlie. I have no new requests, so we'll go back to ranting in general. Strength card. Centering in on strength of character, strength of identity, strength of the personal self. What is self? Who are you? What is the identity that dominates your perspective and allows you to guide yourself through? I do believe that at birth there is a strict two, the perceiving, the seeing, and the unseeing, the consciousness and the subconsciousness. That consciousness at first light, though, is very childlike and very innocent. It's very natural. It fears nothing because it does not see anything to be feared. And this is a matter of perspective. When we've gone through life, when we've gone through experiences, we develop our fears and our traumas, and we start to develop responses around them. At some point, we become a collection of responses, and not the natural inquiry that we were as a child. If you wanted to, hi Charlie, if you wanted to do a full reading live, like my full readings are an hour. That's one thing I just want to make sure we understand here. I usually offer readings for 1 hour or longer. They're usually $80 or more, depending on how long we're sitting for. Thursday Tarot shows usually single card draws just to kind of get quick perspectives on things. But I'm willing to work around what your needs are in the day, and we could work something out. Doing it live in front of everybody else, that's a big personal choice. I won't stop you, but my major concern is always that in large readings especially, we're digging in and digging through processes. I don't want you to be put in a way where you feel exposed, vulnerable, without being forewarned. Sometimes things get said in a reading that make people go a little bit, oh no, I didn't want everyone to know that. And so make sure you're comfortable with that first before a whole live process. Because like a proper reading takes time. Single cards, that's 5-10 minutes. That's a quick quip to help people kind of catch their day. Would you want to do something today on the live? Or would you want to plan this with me and maybe find the best way to do it? Okay, so you'd want to do it live here today. I love that. Love that. Do you want to come on camera too? Or do you just want me to go at it? That's fair. That's fair. So I've got PayPal at NV Stanier. I've got e-transfer if you're in Canada. And other than that, I don't have much for options, but we can figure it out later on too. Here's another big thing for me, guys. Don't pay your readers first. And I say that because having been working as a professional at stores and clinics and places, I've done the full professional route. If you look Russian Tea Room in Edmonton, I worked there. I have done for a lot of places and a lot of things. I truly and deeply believe that you should always pay your reader after the reading to make sure that you actually get something from the reading first. Because if you don't get anything from the reading, you're literally just paying for entertainment, which is what a reader is supposed to be, legally, if we want to get into technicalities. But I don't think you should go to somebody, pay for something, and let them just talk whatever they want at you, and then them turn around and walk away with your money. There's more to this than a lot of us want to admit just yet. And we have to get through that process. Realize that this is a little bit more personal with people and try to treat it as appropriately as we can. Charlie, I've got you setting up for a love reading. These are my pretty lady cards, and these are critical to my love readings. Almost everybody wants their payment first nowadays because they're worried that you're going to run away without paying them. As a reader, as a personal spiritualist belief is that I would rather provide you support than deny you support. If somebody stiffs me for a reading, that's life. That's going to happen every now and again, and that's my risk as a business operator. But to make it about connecting with people and then dangle gold coins as a fee for that connection, there's something very dangerous about doing that if you do it wrong. And the greed that affects people sometimes is really, really, really awful. Charlie, a few questions when it comes to your love reading. I'm going to draw two of these pretty lady cards specifically. This first one that's coming out is you as you are right now. And then there's another one we're going to discuss. It's what the universe wants you to direct your energy towards in romantic interests. Is there any people that you're currently seeing, people that you're currently involved with, people that you want to connect with on a deeper romantic level that we should draw a card for as well? If so, just let me know in the comments. And while I'm waiting for that, I'm going to dig into this whole dress of alchemy that's come up. One card for the boyfriend. Anyone else that we should be drawing for? I know, it's a weird question. It's a really dangerous question, but that's the nature of the beast sometimes. So, we're going to start you off right here with the Dress of Alchemy, Charlie. The Dress of Alchemy represents a personal manifestation. It recognizes that a person has developed a new gift, a new power, and they now need to mix this power with the rest of the world around them. They need to become their new transformation, their new evolution, their new discovery. And by allowing themselves to embrace this new them fully, there is no longer any barriers holding them back, preventing them from becoming best personal self. Sometimes when this card comes up, I do warn some people that in relationships, we can get into a bad process of limiting ourselves for our partners, of holding ourselves back. Instead of being the girl in full power and full form, we become this dragon locked away in a little glass jar. You're not allowed to bottle up when this card shows up, though. You're not supposed to, at least. You're supposed to take things out of the bottle and mix them with other bottles. You're supposed to explore. You're supposed to discover. And being held back because communication isn't there or because the focus isn't really proper for the individual for goals, dreams, desires, the relationship doesn't become one about what you guys can do together to grow, but becomes more about how you can indulge together. These things need to be shaken off. They need to be let go of. They need to be freed from. Otherwise, how do you ever become your fullest potential on the other side? Release your power. Free yourself from prison. Allow yourself to be seen, to be heard, to be understood, to be in the fullest potential of yourself. No longer the shy one, no longer the hidden one, but now the one that is in her power and in her control. The addendum cards, and there's 4 of them, for that card, break it down like this. Savvy woman with a clever intelligence, a good ability of connection, a good ability of schmoozing for business purposes. That'd be like door-to-door marketing, sales, connecting with people to help them realize they need to buy something or acquire something. Really good connecting with people. And sometimes when we're dealing with partners that look at that and see that as a threat to the relationship, there creates a bad ambience, a bad flow. A person sees it and goes, that's a threat. I'm jealous about this because you're connecting with these people so fluid, like so natural. Why is it so easy for you to connect with these other people? And the point is, you're not connecting with them for emotional reasons. You're connecting with them for business reasons, for acquiring assets and whatever else that's out there. If you saw this card come up in the other reading, it's all the same constructs, right? This card is about schmoozing so that you can increase your personal career, both politically, professionally, gaining access to grants and bursaries and other things that just help you to move along into your better life. So you have these abilities to connect with others, and it may just be triggering at times bad fluctuation because people get anxious when they see you talking to somebody else. Now, their anxiety is their problem for them to heal and them to work through. It's not your responsibility to heal other people. Again, for everyone in the back, it is not your responsibility to heal other people. It is our responsibility to ensure that we are not doing additional harm to others, though. And so that's where you have to find that happy balance. If you pull back completely from your engaging and talking with others, your own personal growth is going to start to slow down, and your own personal development is going to start to become haggard. And you need other people in order to see that growth happen. At the same time, if you continue talking to other people, it's going to put strains on the connection that you do have and ultimately lead to big decisions and big choices down the road. So somewhere in there has to be a point of communication and understanding so you two can harmonize rather than working in chaos and mischief back together. Working in a way that each is trying to dominate the moment rather than trying to work appropriately through the moment. The last two cards that came up in the spread came up reversed. I'm not usually keen on reading reversals in the romantic settings. So if you get readings elsewhere and you do like reversals, message me and let me know. Because there is a context change with the Sun card on the end that comes up. Okay, so you can't sleep on it anymore. You need the rest, you need the relaxation, you need the recovery point, you need to get back into a place that's somewhat happy and somewhat content. And so relaxing on it is an option, but you're still going to find a certain amount of pressure coming from his side, and there becomes that certain risk. I just saw your comments down below, and I should read this as a reversal if that's your mindset, because the Sun's saying that there's no life here. There's no energy here. There's no potential here. There's no growth here. There's no opportunity for development. There's no encouragement. There's no life. As much as I hate to say it, what your comment down there on the bottom about think about ending the relationship hits really, really close to that with the Sun on the reverse. Now, I've got two concerns as to why. When I went to draw his card, I ended up having two cards get stuck together. The top card is my favorite girl. This is Kali. I love Kali. Kali is one of my best goddesses. The card that was the one I was reaching for was the Carousel Fairy. We're going to talk about Kali second. Carousel Fairy, that's an easy one. I've been that person a few times in my lifetime. Sometimes we get stuck in a cycle where we can't shift out of it. We can't move out of it. We feel a certain way, and that certain feeling doesn't go away. That certain feeling keeps us trapped to behaving the same way every day. We get into an addiction. The addiction prevents us from going and doing healthy things. Every day it's just the addiction. We get into an angry spot. I hate this person and I can't stand to see their face, but I have to see their face every day. And because I'm seeing their face and I hate them right now, I just get angrier and angrier and angrier and angrier. It becomes a bad trap. Your partner is on that carousel right now. Now, why is he on that carousel is not my purview. I'm reading you right now and your relationships and connections. I'm not reading him. And so I get to see how he is, but then I have to look into how the effect comes in to later on. What Gary's saying is basically the nail on the head. Not needing to feel insecure, not needing to feel unsure. And because of his carousel, He's not progressing, you're not seeing the growth, and so you're not seeing something that you think is actually going to be safe for you in the long term. On the other half of it, he's seeing you as growing beyond him, getting away from him and escaping his potential. You're going to leave him because you're going to be able to replace him so easily. That's the fear that starts to creep in on some people. And for whatever reason, they don't think, well, maybe I should go hit the gym, hit the books, do something that's going to improve me and make me a little bit better for the connections and the relationships at hand. We were locked, whether you want to call it depression, despair, addiction, but something has robbed the free will and prevented them from seeing that their improvement, that their bettering could salvage the situation and make things better. That's why Kali showing up makes me smile slightly. When Kali was introduced to me, she was introduced to me this way. Kali is a Honduran goddess that gets involved in relationships that are going through tough times, and she tries to teach the partners how to dance together so that they can find their new motion and their new way of being with one another. If the partners are successful, they will dance with Kali and then dance with each other, and they will flow and they will dance off into happiness and sunsets and blah, 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 blah. If they cannot figure out their shit, though, then Kali swings around her swords and severs the head of the man and releases the woman to go and find that which is better for her, with Kali sheltering her under her arm. Kali doesn't mess around. Kali doesn't want to see good women tarnished by weak men. And as a result of that, Kali sort of comes in heavy-handed. You're going to do this, or you're going to be destroyed. Now, his 4 cards are tough. His 4 cards are tough. The boy is absolutely dealing with something in a mental realm, and he is not dealing with it in an appropriate manner. Just seeing your comment here about having a problem from his past. Maybe. It's hard to tell whether you want to treat it as, like, if it's currently active and currently holding him back, we can say, well, it's trauma from the past. It's he did this before, or this happened to him, and now he's all this way about it. And, well, yeah, that's all of us. If you caught my quips at the very beginning of this whole conversation when I was talking about perspective and identity, that's all of us. I've got a replay I'll show you later where I'm talking about that with the grayed out version of the strength card in the background here. Being your true self, being your true character, but who is your true self? And you start off as subconscious and consciousness being this childlike innocence that just wants to go and experience things. Your subconscious learning the standards and learning the roles while just being intuitively aware of what needs to be done. And at some point here, you stop being innocence going into the world, and you start becoming perspectives. Perspectives designed by your actions, your choices, and your experiences. And so you come up with opinions, and those opinions direct you at certain times. That persona is a shape that we can choose to create and control. You're intelligent enough, all humans are intelligent enough to decide what reactions they will hold to and create an entire personality around those chosen actions. That is identity, who you choose to be. That's the back end of this conversation, though. We need to focus on the front end, the judgment. He is aware that something has caused a serious change and shift in who he is in his life, but he doesn't necessarily see it just yet as critical as it is. If you want to see him rescued, you have to shake him awake on that. How long have you two been dating? When you've been dating for 3 to 6 months, it's almost impossible to do this. If you've been dating a few years, and especially years stretching into teenagehood or early 20s, then there's more potential for it to work out. But ultimately, it comes down to actually feeling, 1 year's pretty early, 1 year's pretty small, 1 year's pretty short in the grand scheme of life and everything else. So it's not likely that you have the deep influence that's going to be able to just go up to him and say, something's wrong with you and you need to wake up to it. You do need to remind him in gentle ways that his behavior may not be appropriate. You do need to kind of draw attention to it. But the shock awake for this individual is going to be super tricky to do, because they need to be revealed to God. Judgment here is like Judgment Day. You're called forward and supposed to rise up to the gate of heaven for judgment and assessment. It's similar to that vibe in that the truth is just shouted, rung out, screamed. It's impossible for you to perceive things as they are not, because it is so blatantly clear and concise that things are going to be this way. This is the truth. Buddy, you're a damaged man. And how that gets delivered to the individual is always the trick, because some of us, you can say it that way and we don't flip our shit. Others, we're really good at flipping our shit. He unfortunately gives a little bit of a vibe with these two cards of being a table flipper. That if you try to go about it too hard, he's going to be repulsed by the statement and rejecting and pushing away from you as a result of you saying the statement, which sucks. You want to reach out and help a person, and so you do what is in their best interest, and they slap your hand away and say, you're a villain, how dare you, and then they storm out of your life. Is what it is sometimes. As Gary was saying, if they don't want to help themselves, you're never going to be able to help them either. And as I said earlier, it is not every person's responsibility to be healing other people. We have to be responsible for our own health, our own well-being, and our own acknowledgement of when we're not in a good place and in a good state. So, if you put the pressure on, my advice would be to make it specifically about drawing his attention to who does he think his core identity is. If you can illuminate to this person that how he's being perceived and how he perceives himself are different in their energies, you might be able to crack the shell and help him realize something's not quite the same. That might get him curious, that might get him looking into it, that might get him thinking of how he could do it better. But at this particular time, he does not perceive himself as the problem. He does not perceive himself as an error. Life's tough, and I gotta get tougher. That's just how it was when I was a kid, and it's gonna have to be tough like that for the next generation too. I didn't get any freebies. I didn't get any handouts. I didn't get any ladders to step up on, so why should anybody else? What we see is a person that starts to fall into the despair bitterness trap. I'm bitter because other people are getting it easier, and I'm unhappy and despairing because my lot is getting harder. And that's for a lot of us right now. It's sort of a tough decade in North America, and honestly, we're handling it better than I think most of us realize, because we could be at civil war already at this point if we weren't really doing this well. So there's small victories going on, but the small victories don't just trickle down. Each individual has to strike out and actually make their victory happen in their own way. I don't get a sense that he does any of the effort to actually lift his own burdens and lift his own bundles, though. If you can crack the shell that makes him feel like he is isolated and alone, and get him realizing where he could be lifting a little bit more on the burdens and the exercises happening there, helping him to move back towards what he perceives himself as a true character, that could rescue him. But that kind of a recovery is something best done with a therapist. That kind of recovery is best done over the course of years. Your initial cards presented you as needing to be out there and connecting with your life and your future now. And it makes it very difficult for you to actually settle in and look after an individual while you're trying to find that own path and trying to find that own course. This is why I say, Charlie, don't do therapy in your own life if you can help it. You don't always want to have to be doing it at work and home. And yes, this can feel like the right thing to do. It becomes one of those cases where it blurs the professional and the personal. If you're going to go into therapist mode on them, remove the emotions out of it and end the relationship. Because then you can just focus on being the friend, the therapist, and the professional. It doesn't have to be a personal involvement. And phrase that and work with that carefully enough in the conversation as you're letting them down, they might see it for what it is and not see it as accusation of them not being good enough, but a declaration of you see where they're in a state and you want to help them get through that state. That helping them is more important than keeping them. The person's got some stuff to work through, 100%. But until they actually acknowledge that that work needs to be done, until they actually get into the nitty-gritty of it, they're just sort of out there doing this damage to every person that they meet. And that therein is one of my biggest concerns, is how far does their damage go beyond you? Now, I did say I was drawing you 2 cards at the beginning. The first one was where you're at right now with the Dress of Alchemy, releasing your power. The other one was this gal, the Sea Beacon Fairy. She's a funny link to stories of sirens and will-o-wisps. You see a light in the distance. Is it the light of the lighthouse, or is it the light of the Fae coming to eat your bones? What are you actually getting yourself moved into here? And can you actually be mindful of the risks and the dangers involved and ensure that you get where you want to be? I like your comment there about going into therapy. Being a therapist is actually a really, really noble pursuit. It's really, really tough on the heart and soul, I'm going to tell you right now, but it's noble. And it's something that we all need because it encourages the honest conversations in our day-to-day society. Recognizing, though, that doing that in your personal life could create difficulties. You need to have certain boundaries involved in it, and that becomes really tough to do when it's in your personal life. I do wonder if that's the kind of attention or attraction that could be dangerous in a moment like this. On the other side, just running away from them completely doesn't really satisfy the soul either, now does it? Because truthfully, you are a kind person, a caring person, a compassionate person. You'd rather do good for people than leave them in a bad state. And you'd rather help people through their moments than keep them from development and growth, and that's a beautiful way to be. I broadly believe that the relationship that you have with this person as it is too intense for where they're at right now, and bringing it back to being a general friendship is your best bet. I'm careful when I say things because I don't want to tell people how to live their life. Let me explain why I see it this way, though. You are overall coming up as healthy, well put, well thought, and really trying to work on a big future and a big future plan. He, on the other hand, was coming up as being stuck on the carousel, stuck in circles, stuck in loops. If you take somebody that is well developing and moving in a great direction and trap them in a circle, you're trapping all their progress, you're trapping all their potential, you're trapping all of them. It is not appropriate for a weak... sorry, I was going to be mean. I can't be mean. It is not appropriate for a person in a weakened state to demand another person stay and keep them company. It is his responsibility to decide to change and grow and get better and get stronger and get healthier. You being his partner gives him something that he can hide behind, something where in his mind the expectation is different. If I call up a friend, they can say no. If I call up my partner, she has to come. And those kind of rule differences, they're not really explained when we get into relationships. We all have our personal rule set. My girlfriend can and can't do this. My husband will and will not do this. But very rarely do we actually openly admit what our rules are for our partners. We usually just leave them as unspoken things that we get angry about when they trespass over them. So break the bonds that keep trapped to that. You know what? You need to do some personal healing and some personal growth, my friend. And I think until you're done that, just being friends is our best bet, because I care about you so much, it's going to hurt me to be around you while you're in this much trouble and despair. And the usual response to that is, well, I'm not damaged, I'm not broken, I'm not this. When they say honestly, well, maybe there is something wrong, I can work on it, therein lies the demand of commitment to themselves. Yes, you should work on it, but work on it not because I'm your partner, but because I'm your friend, and that you're doing it for yourself, not to save a relationship. If you're doing it to save the relationship, you're not doing it for yourself, you're doing it for the person in the relationship that you want to keep. Possession. That's wanting to keep somebody as close to you as possible because you're afraid to lose them or afraid to lose touch with them. And that's fair. That's fair. But at the core of it, at some point, he's got to realize he can't trespass where he's not invited and not bidden to. Of all the knights within the deck, the Knight of Cups I find to be the most timid in its motion moving forward, because he's concerned with making sure that he's in the right place at the right time, in the right spot. And Charlie, you need to be too. You cannot be pushing yourself into his realm of healing as his partner and have it play out really, really well. The odds are 100,000 against. And has it been done? Yes. But does it come out well? No. So making the choice for yourself now ultimately decides how you're going to be going forward for the next 80 years of your life. Will you compromise yourself and make your efforts about helping people that you have that deep personal bond with, risking the heartache and the heart pains and the heartstrings that come along with it? Or will you leave those people in a place of professional security and safety as friends, acquaintances, until you know that they are healthy and well designed, and then allowing them to enter deeper with you after their healing, not before? This is a rule to apply to all levels of connection. Business partners should be healthily minded. Most of us don't really take time to stop and assess how our business partners are doing, though, because it's business, not personal. Typically, we see these trespasses most impersonal by family, friends, people that know your expertise and know your skill, and to them it's about using you as an asset. And hey, absolutely, we're all here on the planet with gifts to share. But when you using me as an asset compromises integrity, therein lies a problem. And that is why learning this barrier and learning this boundary is such a critical thing. It's good to be guidance, but can you guide them appropriately and well from an angle right next to them? Some people will say no. And listening to the reasons why they say no and the reasons why they say yes, getting to understand the deeper meaning behind all of their thoughts and influences helps you then to understand why. And then once you have the why, you can make your own best personal choice. Overall, on the plus side, I don't see any signs or indications that the individuals doing things to intentionally cause harm to you or your relationship. But I don't see signs that they're well-mannered, well-tempered, and ready for the kind of relationship that you are. It's two people running on slightly different levels and slightly different flows. And so there'll have to be a reckoning and a bringing of truth and understanding that where you two are dancing at is just a little bit different right now. If that difference can be healed with some time apart, we can explore what the future has to offer, but we really need to make sure right here, right now, that things are going to be a little different for a bit. That's a great approach with it, Charlie, because then you're just speaking the truth and speaking the honesty. And it's not pointing at him saying you need to do this, this, or this. It's not imposing against his free will. It's allowing him to find an expression of himself with the truth that you are giving him. And I do think that's going to be your best course of action. If you could send him my way, I would love to try and work with him and improve him. I find that support for men Mentors or guidance or encouragement or even differing perspectives is rare for men. And helping them to realize that there's a bigger picture around them is key right now. You explaining to him that you're perceiving it so differently than him could shake perspective enough to get him thinking maybe there is more to it. Maybe there is something I wasn't seeing. Maybe I was incomplete in the moment. When you can do that kind of shaking of a person without being mean to them, without saying, go get therapy or else, it goes just way better. Absolutely way better. Missy 6, thanks so much for joining us. At some point here, I need to start just doing book readings. Live audiobooks. That'll be a great time for everybody. Charlie, I've said most of the things that I have here. What questions do you have? Another thing that I think all readers should be offering you is question period at the end. That way, if you go down and you're just getting a general reading, you're always going to make sure that you get something that is useful to you and not just general nonsense. And if there's cards or anything that you want to inquire deeper on, I think all readers should be willing to go further into it. Gary put it perfectly there. Should show him by example instead of making him realize because he maybe think it's an attack. That's a really good point. When you can use examples that are outside of the relationship or examples unrelated to the relationship, then it doesn't become personal. And sometimes when it's given less personally, they can just sort of mull it over and then come to that realization later of maybe they were talking about me, maybe not. But it's way less attacking for sure. I'm prone to the more direct masculine approach. You're crazy and this is why you're crazy. And it doesn't play out well. That's why I'm cautious when it comes to people that are not well-tempered, because it can turn very poorly for you. Thank you very much for sharing that with us, Gary. That's big help. Thank you. Is there any other questions for you, Charlie, before I close this all up, or anything that you want me to go into with further detail? And thank you very much for letting me read you a little bit of a larger reading there on the live. I'll message you. You mentioned you were in Canada. I'll message you the email address that I use for e-transfers, and that'll work well enough there. Once I know for sure we can close this one, we'll open it back up to general public. How are you feeling? You mentioned worrying about going to hospital, so if that comes up again. Pardon? Okay, I got a head shake. I'm so glad I got a head shake. I hate going to hospitals. Nasty, dirty energy at hospitals. One more call to Charlie. I think you might be typing something up, but are there any last questions before I close out your reading? This also gives me an opportunity to refresh my coffee, so I will probably do that right now as well. If I come back and Charlie hasn't provided a question, then we will go back to the public readings. And floor is open for requests, so feel free to throw a request in anytime. Okay. Thank you very much, Charlie, for the time and space shared. If anybody else is looking for a single card, The long and the short of the Thursday show is just making sure that there is access to information whenever possible. So, single card draws are always available. And if you want to do what Charlie did and ask me for a live reading and you're comfortable being read on a live, that is an option as well too. Deeper spreads take a little bit more time though. Oh, Charlie wants the big question. Is he willing to change? It is really fluid of a question. It is a very fluid question. What I will say is this. He is indeed willing to try something. He's not happy with his state of being, and if given the right push, course, and direction, the Knight of Wands is the second fastest of motion, but it's also the more reckless of motion. So it really does come down to how he is pushed. If he's pushed in a way that he falls into, remember we mentioned some things about addiction, poor perspective, bad sights and bad temper. If he doubles down on that and digs into that, he will change into something worse. Guiding him and improving him into something better is not often something easily done right next to somebody, and this space is what's going to be what allows it. Him having time to be his own person in his own space, but also held to account when he's behaving in ways that aren't the best. Encouraging him to go out and make the sale. My other job involves me going door to door to businesses, knocking on them and asking them if they want to upgrade their systems. And it's a ridiculous approach, right? Because literally I'm the sewing machine salesman of the 21st century. I'm having a kickball of it. And if I don't do it, nothing happens. This isn't going to just come to me. I have to do it. The realization of I have to do things is a weird one for a lot of people in the world. Because for a lot of our early life, everything is just spoon-fed to us. And so actually going out and having to do the thing to eat and survive is weird and rare. So he needs the encouragement, he needs the push, but it has to be in such a way that they realize their future depends on their action. If they don't act in a way that's healthy and prosperous, no, it's not going to be good. No one's going to save you, but you can save yourself. Like Gary has been cautioning you, you can't necessarily just put a finger in someone's chest and say these things because they might take it as an attack. And if they take it as an attack, they might behave in ways that are really not dependable on. But if you can get them understanding that a man was standing on one side of a river, saw a field of golden wheat on the other, and had to build the bridge to get to the golden wheat, there might be something there that helps to see them through. Get more with sugar than you do with shit, as my partner says, and there is a huge truth to that. This isn't about attacking them and punishing them for being a bad person. It's about acknowledging that they've had a rough go, but they can choose to have a better go if they make their actions go that way. Misty 6 asking about master number 33. Nana asking about a husband. And Jasmine, asking about financial security. We'll get into that. How long do we chat for? I don't know. I wasn't keeping track. Let me throw this in the comments. I don't know if you can copy that out of comments or not, but that is my email address, nvstanier@gmail.com. And that's the one that'll get you sending to my, that's e-transfer for sending to me if you'd like. That was not a full hour. That felt more like 40 minutes. So if you want to send me 60, let's do 60 for that one. I think so. It should be. I can't remember what's in my bio right now, and I should update that and double check that. Good question, though. Good question. nvstanier@gmail.com. The email in my bio, I think, is my Lopic Magic House. Yeah, let's do that. I guess I mumbled. She's sending 16. It's usually 60. 60. I'm so sorry, Charlie. It's usually 60. 80 for an hour. 80 for an hour. Send what you can. Like, the whole point of this show is more about just making sure that you have access to it. You did ask for a large reading, and I get that, but if you just so that there's no shock if anybody else ever tries to book me for a private booking, the private ones, they're usually starting around $80, $60 to $80, and that's for an hour, going longer from there. Send what you can, Charlie. Because at the end of the point, yeah, and I mumble really, really badly. And so it's something I gotta trip myself over to every now and again. Number 33. So Missy 6 is asking about power numbers, energy numbers. Numerology is sort of a neat one. Numerology is a really, really neat one, in which all functions have a numerical value that can be applied to them. Your name can be turned into numbers added up to get what I think is your destiny number. Life path number, I believe, comes from your date of birth, adding up the month, day, and year, but you add up each section on its own and then add them all together. It's almost a science, and the farthest that I've gotten to it is just memorizing the 1 through 9s. And then expanding out of there, trying to learn how to just look at license plates and switch it out to numbers and add it really, really fast. It's been great for my mathematics practice, but absolute headache everywhere else. So 633, okay. And see, Missy just did the exact best example she could have. The smaller number and the larger number. Let's say I add up my full number and it comes out to 27. Well, I'm supposed to take that 27 and size it down again to a 9. So it's actually 27/9. The 9 being a representation, and then the 27, a completely different other representation as well too. And so there's huge things with all of that sort of come into being a deep practice of memorization. I'm not good at memorizing 168 different factoids, and so when it comes to numerology, I'm a little bit rusty here. I usually have a cheat guide somewhere floating around nearby me. I don't know where exactly it is right now. I do know with the 3 aspects, 3 is usually change, transformation, metamorphic. It is a little bit more chaotic in that metamorphic. And so that lovely 33 can sometimes make for an intense drumbeat upon change and transformation and chaos around an individual. Not yet, Nana. We'll get to you in a second. So being mindful with that energy and deep meditations where possible. 3, 6, 9 also being the fun little things that we have with Nikola Tesla, and seeing progression and transformation forward. I find people that typically draw to the 3s, 6s, or 9s or have them show up prevalent. Usually there is a challenge to see the world in a slightly alternative way. Being able to acknowledge that things are bigger and more expansive than what the individual perspective might be able to understand and hold on to. This sometimes adds a little bit of a cray-cray effect. A person feels a little bit unrested, unsettled, confused, because all the energies at hand are a little bit more diverse and a little bit more dynamic. It's different levels with this. Some people go full crone, full insane, full magnification of their own magic energy and form. Others like to keep it a little bit more balanced to the state of I am a walking emanation of something, avatar formats, or exhibition of divine form. Find a lot of the people gravitating to 3, 6s, and 9s are also the ones that are usually showing the mediumship type gifts, clairvoyance, claircognizance, and elements of that sort of form that come to. So if we're buying in on the stock of your date kind of curses you, then yeah, you've got the curse of awareness and being able to see another reality. But being able to manage that focus and recognize that it's a complement to the threading and not a superseding of the threading is sometimes the trick. Heavily gifted individuals. I've worked with a lot of mediums. I liked 1, maybe 2 of them. The rest of them, it was all an ego issue because you have such gifted nature and you feel so different from everybody else. It becomes very easy to see yourself as superior to the others. This was an issue that came up quite often in high school when I was working with the first groups that were developing their skills, our skills, I should say, because we saw ourselves now in an element of being able to manifest and create these things, these sheep, these mortals, these other beings, lesser beings, started to become the derogatory approach. And there has to be a balancing with that too. Medium or medium accessible. Sorry, Nana, it'll just be another quick minute here if you've got time to wait. If not, I totally understand. So, mediumship specifically is communication with other side energies. Most people focus in on departed loved ones or energies that are easily connected with. Telemetry, holding on to an object and having a sense of where it's come from, who's held it in the past, and drawing energy off of it. Still in that same concept. I find when people are prevalent with 3s, 6s, or 9s, more often than not what they're seeing is a manifestation of energy, transformative energy points in and around them. Harnessing and mastering the 369 allows them then to maintain a semblance of sane living without being sort of overrun by all the chaos that's happening outside of you. Small bets. If you want to shoot me a message, I can definitely look more and find my cards and information for numerology later on. It's on my list of studies to get into, but I like it more for the math of it than I like it for the memorization of meanings. And so that's where I get kind of caught up on it. Nana, back with husband or married to somebody else. Nana is wondering about relationship stuff, and that's fair. And then after that, it was Jasmine. Nana. Nana, what's in the heart? The Hermit is usually an indication that it's not really about getting and connecting with others. It's about getting and connecting with yourself, being comfortable with yourself, your own course, your own direction, your own flow. If you're reaching out to other individuals and looking for others to be your connecting point, does that not become a form of trap and containment of your own energy to their form? Do you need these other people? Or is it just, it feels like the right thing to do, the natural thing to do, the appropriate thing to do? Sometimes we get all focused up on just making sure that we have somebody, that we don't really necessarily focus on whether that somebody is right for us or wrong for us. And so making sure, Nana, that you're finding yourself first before diving into anything else, I think is going to be the key. If you go back with the husband, it's going to be a repeating cycle. If you go to somebody new, it's going to be a repeating cycle. You have to get into your energy of you before diving back into another relationship. Very sorry to say. Jasmine, asking about financial security. I have for you coming up the 5 of Wands, Jasmine. This one relates more towards needing to get into market and into form. My gut tells me that there's probably entering into a very competitive field or a field that's oversaturated, needing to find ways to make yourself stand out without coming across as aggressive, hostile, or mean against other people. The thing with a lot of industries, is because the reputation becomes such a critical and important thing, you have to kind of dive in and really show yourself as something separate and different from everybody else. If you can stand out that way, if you can show up and stand out in a way that makes it that your reputation is now the outlier. It's like, let's think YouTubers. Markiplier has his own style, his own format, and his own nature, and has helped him to kind of stand out in its own way. On Newgrounds, Strong Bad was one of the things that stood out because style and flavor made it marketable, and it just worked. Sometimes we have to find that way to make ourselves marketable, make ourselves appear more readily to the people around us, so that they can understand that we have something of great value to offer and great increase to present to them. If you can get that moving, Jasmine, then I think, yes, you will absolutely see some change right away. But the change doesn't happen until you start applying your force against the competition around you. You need to stand out from the crowd as soon as possible. Okay, just checking through some of these messages here. Appreciate you, Missy6. Thanks so much for coming on by and hanging out for a little bit. Have a good day, Nana. Thanks for popping in. Thanks for the gift. That works. Thanks, Charlie. Yeah. Okay. So that did actually clear it out. So we're on okay standing right now. I wasn't sure where that had gotten to. It had gotten a little bit hung behind. Been I think about an hour though. I'm fairly comfortable with what we've progressed through and what we've done. So thank you all very much for popping it out and joining me for a little bit here today. Thank you again, Charlie. Appreciate the gifts. Helps to get me up there in the rankings and helps to make me show up for more people so we can keep this service live and open to people going forward for as long as possible. Every Thursday, I'll be here on TikTok doing this show. Tuesdays, I'm on Facebook trying to run an education show. If Facebook doesn't stop complaining about connection quality, though, we might move that over to TikTok as well. I love to teach. So if you have any interest in learning and developing skills within spiritual elements, shoot me a message, let me know. Right now I'm offering a course for tarot. Takes 4 to 6 hours, let's be honest. Probably going to be up to 6 hours. It'll run you $200, but at the end of it, you'll have a fuller understanding of all of the suits, major arcana, minor arcana, how to do spreads, and how to read either intuitively or through pattern recognition. And tarot book is about halfway finished. Copies of that will be going out with any person that's received tarot teaching from me in the past. Other than that, I hope you all have a fantastic week ahead. I've got a little bit of the business work stuff to do now, and then running around looking for a new place to move in. Hopefully going to get something for ourselves coming up here end of the month, and there's a few really, really good ones that have kind of come up our way. And so I'm feeling fairly confident that it's all going to go out well. But just that last little push, right? Next week, I may be out remotely working out on an acreage, and so Tuesday and Thursday shows will probably still happen. They've got some pretty stellar Starlink internet out there. And so next show will be brought to you by Elon Musk. Huzzah. Alright, that's me for the day. Thank you all very much for joining. It is and always a pleasure to be of service to you where I can be. And wherever you go, wherever you are, be safe, be well, and goodbye for now.